Benchwarmers, what's going on? My name is Diego, joined in this recording by Marco the Interrupter for your fantasy episode of the week. We're recording this on Thursday, going live tomorrow, and the deadline will be Saturday for this new fantasy game week. We're talking about game week 30, the deadline being Saturday, April 6th, April 3rd at
I'm about
6
to say,
a.m.
holy shit.
Saturday, April 3rd at 6 a.m. It is April Fool's, so I guess April Fool's or what have you. But after a very interesting international break, Marco, where we saw Timo Werner's miss of the season and last season and next season, which we posted on our Benchwarmers page on Instagram. So make sure you follow us there.
That is the miss of the decade.
It is. It really is. And make sure that you tag anyone else that will probably miss that. Any of your friends that you know would hit it just like Werner. But we're not here to talk about Werner. We're here to talk about fantasy and how that goal for Werner was a fantasy because he missed it horribly. But that's it about Werner, because we're going to go back to picking our squads, of which Werner shouldn't have been on the starting 11 for Germany. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about fantasy. And I'm very glad for fantasy. I had a bit of a slip up. You know, the blank game week 29 didn't really go to plan. Marco, you also have some regrets,
Big time.
and more regrets, big time, involving some particular Leeds players. But before we get into it, just reminding everyone that is part of our Benchwarmers Fantasy League that at the end of the season, you'll get a very special prize from us, whoever is at numero uno, the top for our Benchwarmers Fantasy League for this season. I think we have to say it, though, as well. The usual housekeeping. You can find us, listen to us on any of your favorite podcasting platforms, whether that's Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts, by searching Benchwarmers FC. You can also see the video of this specific episode for fantasy by going on where, Marco, specifically?
YouTube at Benchwarmers FC TV.
And like we had mentioned for our social media and the video that we posted today about that very embarrassing Timo Werner miss, and any of your friends they want to tag on there, you can find us on any social media platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, by searching Benchwarmers FC1. All right, Marco, we're going to get into it. Give it to me straight. What was your point total for game week 29?
I mean, I did come out above average.
Okay, the average I think was 24.
5.
So it's not bad.
But I expected more.
25, sorry, the average was 25. So how'd you do?
38.
Walk us through it. 38.
Yeah.
Hey, he's better than me. You did way better than me.
I mean, me going into this, me thinking, oh my god, I have that free hit. Oh shit, I'm gonna rack up these points. I'm gonna stick it to Gat. Didn't happen. I brought in players that end up getting injured. I captained a player that barely played, or did anything on the field, which is Aubameyang. He had his chances, didn't put him away. Captained him for no reason. 4 points lost there. Son got injured, 0 points. Or was injured, so nothing there. Yeah, man. I mean, my one and only faithful that I've had from the beginning of the season, I decided to bench him. Not even bench him, take him out of my squad because I have a free hit, which is Bamford. And he walked away with the goal and an assist.
11 points.
Yeah. And so that bit me in the ass because, of course, like I said, I've had him since the beginning of the season. I think maybe week 3, and I have never gotten rid of him. And then the one time, I think he felt it. He knew it. He was like, Marco, you fucked me over on your fantasy. I'm going to show you why you should have never get rid of me. And I mean, Bamford, I'm sorry. I'll bring you back.
Yes, you did bring him back. Bamford and Rafinha with 11 and 8 pointers respectively. Lord Lingard as well with 12 pointers.
Lingardinho.
How's your team looking for game week 30 though? You did use the free hit, right? So your team must be looking okay.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I only have 2 that are iffy of possibility playing, which is Son and which is Saka. One has 50%, which is Son, and Saka has 75% possibility of playing. I'm keeping an eye out. Thankfully, I still have to tomorrow to figure out who is it that I'm going to replace, because I do have one free transfer, and if anything, I'll take a second hit. But I'm here because I want to talk to you about what's next. And
Oof.
what should we look forward to? Who should we move around if we need to? So
Well, there is some movement, and after your blank game week 29, there was definitely a few managers that benefited from it. The first one that I'll point out, and this is our very own Benchwarmers Fantasy League, and that is the new leader. I was sitting in the top spot for quite a few weeks. I ended up with 22. I'm not even gonna get into my team. It was awful. I made the choice that I was gonna just write out whatever pain that 29 was going to give me. And Alkin United with a 60 pointer in the game week, captaining Lord Lingard and also having Bamford and Rafinha on his squad. 60 points, the new leader with 1772. I dropped down a second, a nice little small red arrow for a total of 1768. Josue on our bench in third place. Looking also for the other positions of other players, which is Gat in 11th. He moved up a little bit. Nick in 9th, he moved down. And we have Eric in 18th and Marco in 21st place. It's still there. There's still about 8 game weeks left, including this one that's coming up this weekend, and it's not over. It's definitely not over. And bringing up who we need to pick, who we need to look at. There are some players that are coming back from injury, and I want to focus on those guys because it could mean a shift in the performances for these teams. And who I'm talking about is Jack Grealish from Aston Villa, Heung-min Son from Spurs, and James Maddison from Leicester City. All three of these players have been pictured healthy, training, and back with their squads. Whether they'll be involved very much this weekend, there are still some questions raised. Some of those players are still flagged in the game itself, but we've seen the photos, we've seen the evidence, and they look like they're ready to go. Marco, if you were to, let's say, change one of the players on your squad right now, I know I'm looking at it, not to single you out or anything or put you under any particular pressure, but essentially looking at your game week 28 team, which was your previous one before you use your free hit, you have someone that I want to bring up who was on red hot form during the international break, and that's Diogo Jota. Jota registered a massive 16 pointer. I can't believe that. Can't believe I'm looking at that. Oh, it was because you had the captaincy on him. Jota with a goal against Wolves, and I believe he scored twice for Portugal over this international
I
break. He
believe so.
might have had
Yes.
an assist as well. So Jota is one of the players to look at to have in your squad. How do you feel about having Jota in your midfield?
I mean, it was a gamble when I brought him in, and it kind of paid off. Even though he didn't finish that game week that I captained him, and then he walked away with 60 points. He didn't finish the game. I think he walked
Mhm.
away in like minute 70 or something like that.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, and then he did so good for Portugal. I'm happy that I did the switch. I know that it was a gamble because I was getting rid of Salah, and I was getting rid of Salah. I was getting rid of Gundogan, and I was bringing in Jota and then De Bruyne. So it worked out. It hasn't paid off because it has been only one game. So I haven't really felt the benefits of, oh my god, I did this, I did the right thing. But so far, I'm happy with the switch because Salah has been iffy, and even though I believe he had like a massive game right now internationally, because I think didn't Egypt walked away with like, I don't know, like 100-0 or something like that,
Yeah,
or
something
am I
like that.
wrong?
No, something like that.
Yeah,
Something like that.
so I mean, he might have gotten the itch again, so it might be a possibility to bring him back. I don't have the funds for it yet, so and it is also against Arsenal, so that would hurt a little bit to gamble on bringing Salah back and against my own team. But you asked about Jota, so yeah, I'm happy with Jota.
Jota is a player that I think quite a few managers would like to pick up as a differential, especially because quite a few of them have the conundrum of tripling up on Spurs. So Bale and Son both being over 9 million isn't really the greatest, and Jota happens to be that cut rate player that you can put into your squad that happens to be hitting form and playing for a team that is struggling to get back into the top four. Someone that isn't really struggling recently and that has been involved a lot for his respective team is Rafinha. And although I don't have him, he kind of taught me a lesson over game week 29 that Rafinha has been very heavily involved for his team and for the goals. Now, Bamford, as Marco had attested to, he did punish the sellers. He punished people that wanted to go for other premiums. But quite a few managers had him still and still have him on their teams. Rafinha, though, gives you the added benefit since he's a midfielder for the clean sheet points, although well, I'll admit that Leeds don't get quite a few of them, but he also has that extra point for scoring, and he just seems to be all over the pitch when it comes to setting up the goals. Right now, they have a match against a very shambolic and deflated Sheffield United, which I think is going to be great. Bamford and Rafinha, though, for some reason at home, their numbers aren't the greatest. I think both of them are under like 40% for their goal contributions coming at home. Most of their good or better performances happen to be away from home for some reason, as has been the trend with a lot of other teams during the season. Afterwards, though, they play Man City, Liverpool, and United back to back to back. So I feel bad for people that have Bamford, Rafinha, Dallas. They have a triple up. I have Dallas and Sturridge, but I keep that other defender there because he's 3.9. So he's definitely an enabler, and I have plenty of money in the bank right now. I just did did us a favor, Marco, and I looked up if there were any price changes, and it looks like there wasn't. It looks like it's pretty quiet right
Good,
now.
good. Is there a possibility
So
of price changes for tomorrow?
there could be, yeah. You have quite a few other players which are being shown as fit as well, including like I had mentioned, Madison and Son. But Rafinha, Bamford, I think if you have them, you should keep them. And I'll move on to another interesting part of the teams, which is Spurs. So I tripled up on Spurs for the blank game week 29. Marco, do you have any Spurs players?
I do have Sun. That's the
You
only
do
Spurs
have
I have right now.
Son.
That's the only player I
So
have.
I have the problem that I have all three of Bale, Son, and Kane. And although Kane is someone that Marco does want to pick up as well
Correct.
for the end of the season, I think Kane is going to be he's just Harry Kane. I think there's not really much to be said as far as having a striker, a premium striker that's going to show up. Spurs have been stuttering as of late, but now with them being knocked out of the Europa League, they got nothing else to go for. So it pretty much is wrapped up that they're going to focus on the league. They have to. They do have the EFL final, I believe, right, against City that they still have to play, but that's a
That's
one
it.
and done thing, and they still have to secure their spot for next season. So I'm sure that they're gonna. I hope,
Going all out.
at least for fantasy sake and for my team's sake, they go all out. So they play a weaker Newcastle side for this week, and then afterward, it's been confirmed already that they have a double game week because of their availability in the fixture schedule for game week 32, if I'm not mistaken. They have a double against Everton and Southampton before they blank in game week 33. There are some other fixtures that still have to be scheduled, and there hasn't been much information given out on that. Of course, as soon as we have that, we'll share it with the rest of you guys. So back to what I was saying, Son, Bale, and Kane. I think for managers that have any of those three, a combination of those three, two of those three, just stick with them. You know, against Newcastle, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of let them run and show that they're still trying to be competitive in the league. I was just commenting with Marco off air that some of the comments that Mourinho made about only wanting players on the pitch that want to play for the squad and for the team is something that he's prioritizing. Bale had some interesting comments about his time left at Real Madrid, and it didn't really sit well with his manager. I wouldn't really transfer any of them in right now, except for Kane. Kane is the only player that I think is worth putting in. Son would also be there, but I think with the injury, although he was shown, he was pictured training and stuff, having some touches on the ball. It's at least to me personally, I always give it at least a week just to see how the player looks because they might be out of rhythm, they might be out of fitness, they might just be out of touch with the rest of their teammates. I think giving them time to kind of assimilate back into the squad after a lengthy injury is good, especially if it's been quite a few weeks before they've been on their respective teams. So, Marco, you're saying you're going to go all out for Kane to try to get him in your team as soon as possible.
Yes, I'm, if I take a couple hits, I could do it this week. If I want to be a little bit conservative about my points and the point loss, I could wait another week and then use my wild card.
Okay. I think I've taken quite a bit of hits actually. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna pull it up right now. But just going through the players on the watch list. I know this is usually a segment that we do in the beginning of each episode, but I wanted to save it a bit for the end. Looking at my transfers, it looks like I've made about 40 total transfers this season, and I've taken quite a few hits. I think I've taken about maybe 10 to 12 hits, and that's a minus 40. That's a lot. Um, you know, the in previous seasons I would have taken many more hits because I'm not too afraid of them. But at least for me personally, one of the um, one of the things I set out to do for myself this season is to try to reduce the hits. I know eight to 10 is some managers like, oh my God, because mostly they would take maybe 4 or 5 for the whole season. So I've been trying to be much more disciplined as far as like taking those transfer hits. And that was my plan for game week 29. So I suffered a bit with only 22 points being gained. Some other teams getting 48, 60, more than 60. And at least now I'm taking respite that I have a good squad. I don't have to make any crazy changes for hits right now. Most of those teams are going to be good for maybe this week, but then afterwards they're going to have to start to take hits to rearrange their squads. And meanwhile, I have players that are already lined up to bring in and out. But anyway, back to the watch list. As I had mentioned, Marco, we were talking about Aston Villa. Aston Villa have a pretty terrible run for the end of the season. They play all of the difficult squads: Liverpool, City. I would count Everton, even United, Tottenham, Chelsea, and they still have the first match against Everton, which has to be rescheduled. That I think their only easy matches on paper are this week against Fulham, and then in 3 weeks against West Brom, and then game week 36 against Crystal Palace. That's only 3 out of probably the next 3, 6, 9 matches. So, is it time to ditch Emi Martinez? What is your gut telling you, Marco?
There is a possibility.
Mhm.
A lot will say on how Grealish comes back. I
Yes.
think that is a big key because if he comes in form and he comes back with the Grealish we know and we've enjoyed to watch this season, then it would be a big debate to see if you want to get rid of Martinez or not. If Grealish doesn't come back and he was playing like he was playing in the past couple of weeks before he got injured, then I'd consider actually getting rid of all my Aston Villa players, which is when I say all, I have two: is Martinez and Atkins.
Right, and Watkins. So, just looking at the goalkeeper position, one of the shouts that I have that I think is very obvious, and they've been showing it. They've been machines defensively. Edouard Mendy from Chelsea. Mendy and Chelsea have 3 simple, winnable, clean sheetable, if that's a coin term or not, matches in the next 3 game weeks: West Brom, Palace, and Brighton. They have West Ham afterwards, but then they have Fulham. I think out of those 5 matches, 4 of them very easily, I can see them getting a clean sheet in those. And then just for an odd shout, although they do play Villa and Wolves, Fulham with Areola, they've been keeping an odd number of clean sheets recently. They have, I think, 2 in their last 4 or 3 in their last 6, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And I think for a keeper that's 4.6, that's not too bad. I'm not sure about switching Martinez for Areola, but at least for Mendy, I think it's pretty done and dusted. That being said, also looking at players like Aspilicueta, Alonso, or Rudiger for your back lines. Personally, I made a transfer for a Chelsea player, and I'll come up to that at the end of the episode, just so we can wrap up the watch list right now for the end. Some of the defenders that I have on the watch list still, Aaron Cresswell. Marco, you had mentioned that you're riding with Cresswell for the rest of the season.
Most likely, yeah. I mean, he's I don't want to say cheap, but he's a good defensive player, and I think it's a smart move to keep him, mostly because I think West Ham really wants to end in the top four,
Yeah,
and he's a key player for that.
yes. Well, West Ham has been pushing. We have a double-digit haul for Aaron Cresswell in his last 6 matches: 12 points against Sheffield, 12 points against Leeds, no clean sheet against United, and definitely not a clean sheet after that. Remarkable comeback by Arsenal during the blank. But Aaron Cresswell is a player that has been often involved on the attacking side of things. And I think even I'm actually very curious to see this. I wonder if he has more contributions than Cancelo, because that'd be I would die laughing. He has more points. Let me see if he has more assists. I want to look this up right now live on the recording because I would laugh. Yeah.
He does, right?
he has he has 10 assists. Guess how many Cancelo has?
5.
3.
Wow. Wow.
Let's see goals. Let's see goals scored.
I think Cancelo might have at least 1 or 2 more. If I could be wrong.
Cancelo
Doesn't have goals.
he doesn't have a goal.
He hasn't scored. So so it's been the center backs that have been
Oh
scoring.
no, Cancelo has scored once. Cancelo has scored once.
Okay.
And I don't think Cresswell has scored.
I don't know. Then he has 1 or 2 more than.
Yeah,
than
it doesn't
Cresswell
look like
has.
it. So I guess on the attacking side, all of this talk about, and especially for myself, because I stand corrected, looking at the numbers is definitely something that I like to do because it's eye-opening. It's a bit humbling at times. Cresswell, he's cheaper than Cancelo. He's more involved than Cancelo, has more points now than Cancelo. I think City are going to be on a different boat for the rest of the season,
And
especially with Champions League. I think this is just me talking personally from my opinion. Disclaimer. I believe that they're going to take their foot off the gas a little bit for the league and focus on Champions League.
Hey,
I'm not saying that they're going to start losing.
Yes.
I'm saying that they might not be as crazy of a defensive unit as they have been in the for the majority of the season, and we see that with only 1 clean sheet in their last 4 matches.
I mean, not only that. Again, you said it. Cresswell is a lot cheaper than Cancelo, and two, Man City does like to do the whole rotation.
Yes, and I'm done. I'm done with rotation. I'm done with it. I'm kind of skipping a little bit here, but I'm done with Pep Roulette for the rest of the season. I want to enjoy my season. I want players that I can rely on, and I don't have to worry about freaking John Stones scoring the second goal of his freaking entire career against some random teams. Was against Fulham and against West Ham. Like seriously. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. For the watch list, I'm going to go here by total points. Cresswell, Ruben Diaz is on there. Stuart Dallas is on there. I know he's on Leeds, and we don't really expect much from Leeds. But as far as being a budget defender that gives you something back, he's been definitely involved. Not too far behind on the points either. I think he might be in the top, at least in the top 5, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe definitely top 10 for the defenders. John Stones. This is a bit of a left field pick, but I think with having Matip out and utilizing Fabinho as a defensive midfielder, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's been kind of plugging up however shaky Liverpool have looked. I think Robertson might be a player to look at again. I don't know about Alexander-Arnold. I really don't know what happened to him this season. He just hasn't been hitting on all cylinders as he usually has, or at least completing the crosses that he would usually do. But Robertson is definitely a big premium at 7.1. Luke Shaw, 5.2. I think he's cut rate, and I think he is a player that's going to be a good left back for the rest of the season. So I think one of the important things to look at is what players are going to be playing often, getting those 90-minute games, and that they have something to play for still. One of the things that I do want to mention is that there's quite a few teams right now. I would say right now that are just the term is like on the beach. They have nothing to play for. And I'm talking about teams like, let's say, Wolves, maybe even Southampton, maybe even Leeds. I don't know. I think it might be too far of a gap for them to actually challenge for, let's say, like a European spot. So we have West Ham with 49 points, Spurs with 48. All of these teams, I would say, from maybe Arsenal below. I'll count Aston Villa in there. So we're looking at teams like Leeds, Palace, Wolves, Southampton, Burnley. These teams have really nothing else to play for because they're definitely safe from relegation, and there's not really much that they can go other than that mid-table. So I'm going to try to actively avoid players from those teams. I know a lot of people are looking at Wolves and their fixtures coming up recently. One of the names that is the most popular has been Pedro Neto, and their fixtures look pretty nice. West Ham, Fulham, Sheffield, Burnley, West Brom, very easy fixtures. But I believe they've only scored 7 goals as a team. They've only scored 7 goals in their last 10 matches. That's less than a goal per game. So
Hmm.
I'm going a little bit on a tangent here, but Wolves is I'm focusing on a little bit to kind of make an example for teams that are again on the beach. Maybe you want Saiz, maybe you want Connor Cody, maybe you want another defensive asset from Wolves. We can see them technically play for a clean sheet, but again, because there is no motivation, I would be a bit apprehensive about bringing those players onto my squad, because then again, what are they being encouraged for? Like, yes, there's monetary value in getting up a spot, so there is a financial motivator, I guess, but then beyond that, there's not really much else. So how much? What I'm saying is, how much harder is that team going to try to keep the clean sheet? Um, I don't really trust that. For a team like Chelsea, however, who have been on the up and who have been working well, even though they haven't been on the scoring side, clean sheets and the defensive prowess has been something that they double down on. So moving ahead on the watch list, I ended it with Shaw. There is a shout for a player like Kieran Tierney. Although Arsenal play Liverpool, there are 2 Arsenal names that are on my mind right now. Kieran Tierney is one of them. They play Sheffield and Fulham after this Liverpool game, which I think are clean sheetable matches for Arsenal. And also something that I mentioned to Marco is Lacazette was kept on the field during that game against West Ham. And Aubameyang hasn't seemed to be catching on to his usual self. I think Lacazette is a player that is worth taking a look at, taking a gander, taking a peek. Some of his last points have been 8, 1, 8, and 11 in his last 4 matches. So if that doesn't say form, I think there's really no other reason to maybe take a gamble on a player like Lacazette, especially with games like Sheffield and Fulham coming up. I don't know about Liverpool. I wouldn't have that much faith. They can pull something off, but as far as maybe a clean sheet or it being a game where he can score in, I think those 2 players are pretty good shouts. Going into the midfield and just running through this very quickly, Mohamed Salah, if you can afford him, I don't think he's going to stay quiet very, very much longer. I hope he doesn't stay quiet very much longer for fantasy reasons. But then again, he could just stay quiet for the rest of the season because I don't mind. Marcus Rashford is a bit injured right now. I think he pulled out of the England squad due to injury, so I wouldn't really look at him right now. Mahrez and De Bruyne are 2 very hot names that are high up on the watch list for Man City. Again, not for me anymore. Maybe De Bruyne if he starts being more involved in the matches, and it looks like he's going to be rotation proof. But again, I don't want anything to do with Pep Roulette. I mentioned Rafinha. I mentioned Neto. I took a punt on Saka for Game Week 29. Didn't really work out. One of the last names on here, and I think this is going to be a good shout because he's cheap. He might be my Saka replacement, and he's someone that a lot of people rode the train on. Scored a hat trick for his team during the international break. That's Thomas Souček. That's right. The potato salad loving, friendly, tall Czech. He is Czech, right? I think he's Czech Republic.
I believe so.
Um, he scored a hat trick for his national side. And although he hasn't been really much in the points, and a lot of people are looking at a player like Lingard, I think Souček is going to be pretty vital for his squad. Um, if you have Lingard and you don't want to double up, or you're not interested in Lingard, you want someone cheaper that is still involved, maybe in that team. I think Souček is the way to go. That's just going to be my punt, I guess. Bamford on your front lines. Bamford, Vardy, although he kind of disappointed recently. Calvert-Lewin for maybe a 1-week punt against Crystal Palace this week. Watkins, which you do have. Marco, Lacazette, I had mentioned. Richarlison and Antonio. So that kind of wraps up the watch list for this week. Players to look out for Game Week 30. I would say anyone that has a wild card, I think I would wait just 1 week just to look at how the Champions League matches are going to play out for this week coming up in this first week of April, and then looking at to see if there's going to be any other surprises as far as injuries, infections, although unfortunate, or what have you. My transfer for the week has already been Aspi. So Aspi Liqueta has come in. Cancelo has been shipped out. Thank you very much for all the anticipation. He's probably going to go on and score 25 points for his match against Leicester. So with that, Marco, I think we're pretty much wrapped up for the week. Thank you for recording with me, everyone. I appreciate you all for coming to this part of the episode and listening to the end. We definitely appreciate all of your support. Again, make sure you follow us, like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube and our social media profiles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My name is Diego, the Stat Troll, joined today by Marco, the Interrupter. We're the Benchwarmers. This is the Bench with a Voice, where the bench is always warm. Peace, everybody.
Peace.